Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy So What Day. Welcome. This is So What with Sulky, and I'm Ellen March. For those of you joining for the first time, let's see here. I'm just going to adjust a little bit of settings. I hope you're all with me. If you can see and hear me, drop something in the chat or give me one of those great emojis so that I know that you're with me here today. I've been having some technical difficulties on So What lately, so I just want to make sure everything's going well before we get started. Okay, Sharon, thank you. I see you. All right, perfect. Love it. Okay, now I'm seeing a lot of you coming on. There must have just been a little bit of a delay. Perfect. So today I have a fun project to share with you. I'm sure that you're starting to see all of those cute little lemonade stand pop-ups happening around your neighborhood because the weather is getting hot. It is July 1st. Crazy. The summer is just kind of flying by now that it's finally summer. So I thought it would be really fun to create a little lemonade stand flag bunting. It kind of levels up the lemonade stand, makes people come on over and check out your stand. And of course, we can alter this and customize it for all sorts of things. I used the same tutorial to create a really cute bunting when my girls were born, and it was behind their cribs. And I just used some cute fabrics. I didn't even put applique on it at all. You can also create this for a birthday. Maybe create one that says happy birthday or happy day if you don't want it to be that long. And you can hang it for everyone's birthday that you're celebrating, maybe, for a dinner party or cute brunch or something like this. And then obviously you can create this for any holiday as well. You're just going to change up the lettering and the applique and however many flags that you need to get your point across. So I'm going to go through this super simple tutorial with you today. But before we get started, I know we talked about this last week, but I'm interested to know, last week might have been a little bit too early, but who out there has received their mystery box? I know here on So What, we gave you a little leg up on everybody else to purchase your mystery box, our Slice of Summer mystery box. And I'm not sure if there are any golden tickets left, but I do know we only have about 8 boxes or something like this left in stock. So if you are interested in grabbing up one of those summer mystery boxes, or maybe you received your box and you're thinking to yourself, I need another one of these, or I want to gift one of these to a friend so they can make the cute projects inside that are perfect for summer and beyond. You can grab one of those up at the low price of $49.99. It's over $80 in value of full-size products. There's also a project tutorial that is exclusive to the box, never before seen here on So What or anywhere else at sulky.com. So it's a really fun project. I happen to love the one that's in this box, and I can't reveal it quite yet until all of these boxes sell out. I did get a note from somebody who said, hey, are you going to be showing how to put together this box's project, or the main project for this box, on So What? And the answer is I will, but I can't do it until the boxes sell out because I don't want to give away the mystery of the mystery box. So let's see, got my box last week. It came very fast. Oh, Colleen didn't get a golden ticket. Sorry, Colleen, maybe next time. Michelle's gotten her box. Sue says she's already working on it. Love it. Maureen got a box, haven't started it yet. Lots of you got boxes. Love that. Sharon got hers. Mary has hers. Love it. Okay, perfect. Well, I just wanted to let you all know, if you didn't receive a box, didn't purchase a box yet, we do have very, very limited quantities left, which is kind of surprising. Usually these sell out within a day or two. So But I know we made more of this summer box because the summer ones tend to go even faster. I think that it's just so nice over the summer when, you know, we're outside, maybe we're traveling, going on vacations. We don't have that much time to sew. Or maybe it's just, you know, that we have too many other things going on. So it's nice to get a box that has everything inside. You can still be creative. You don't have to spend a super long time at your sewing machine to have a really cute project at the end of the day. All right, so that's mystery box news. Also, I did notice after last week when we talked about our travel English paper piecing kit, curious to know how many of you made one. I'm obviously back from my trip, so I was going to show you how many EPP hexagons I was able to make. So if you missed last week's So What, you can watch it as well as any of our So Whats on our YouTube channel. We have a So What playlist. So if you've missed any, or if you want to search up a certain technique or project, you can head on over to our YouTube channel and watch any of the So Whats. It's kind of funny to see how So What has evolved over the years. I mean, this is episode 288. 288 episodes. Ooh, that was really loud. Of So What. So quite an achievement. We are going to hit our 300 episodes probably this year. So that's exciting. Anyway, if you missed last week's, we put together an English paper piecing travel kit with all the items that you would need to create some English paper piecing little hexagons. You could take this kit on the airplane or on a road trip and come up with your own English paper piecing blocks to add to things like pot holders, make mug rugs, or you can even piece them all together and create a super stunning quilt once you have enough of your hexagon blocks. So on the plane last week, I was able to piece together all of these cute little hexagons from my kit. You could see I still have some paper attached to my outer hexagons, and then I've started taking the paper away from the center. So once your blocks are assembled and they have a hexagon attached to them, you could start removing those papers. And you can come up with some really fun designs. So this is going to be something that we will work on in the future. So if you're also working on your hexagons, they can really be at any size. I'm going to then show you what to do with them and some different ideas. You don't have to even use a pattern. You can kind of just get creative on your own. So speaking of that kit, we put it together and stored it in our So Can She organizer with these great little clear vinyl pockets that have zipper closures, and then the whole thing gets folded together and snapped so that you could see it's kind of open, but everything is nice and tidy inside. So this is a fantastic kit and an on-demand, start anytime webcast that we pulled out from our archives at sewingonline.sulky.com because it was one of our most popular webcasts. And so we decided to bring it back and re-kit it with some fabulous Tula Pink fabrics. So you get 3 fat quarters of Tula Pink fabrics. You also get the foam interlining that makes this nice and puffy and squishy and further protects your items inside. You get the vinyl for the pockets, and you get these amazing Tula Pink zippers and snap. That's right, she has a line of notions with Sally Tomato, and so we use those so that everything coordinates quite nicely. So if you already registered for the So Can She organizer back in the day when we first launched it, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, then it's in your library and you can access it at any time. You can grab up one of these new kits and then kind of refresh your memory about how to put it together, all the tips and tricks. And if you want to add machine embroidery to the front, it's nice and quilted, but you can also add embroidery embellishment. It's really the perfect canvas for a little saying or a motif, some sort of personalization to make it yours. If you do want those instructions, they are in that webcast. So you can either sign up for the Sew Can She Organizer webcast if you missed it, or access it in your library and then grab up one of the new Tula Pink kits. They are limited edition. They come with this beautiful sort of lavender print with the pink polka dots and then the cute little checkered print, as well as the interior of mine. I chose the sort of raindrop print that brings everything together. So you get to choose which fabrics you want to use where, because you get a full fat quarter of all three prints. So if you want the checkered fabric for your exterior, you can just switch that up. You get the idea. So it's a really fun project that comes together quite quickly. Great for traveling, great for storing your sewing notions, all of the things. So here's just a close-up where you can see I'm sewing the vinyl to one of the zipper tops, and the zippers are just so cool. They have this pink sort of metallic finish to them, and I just love how it all comes together. So, all right. And Jana says, I love that we have options for fabric placement. Yes, me too. You know, I love a pre-cut kit for sure, but when you're working with fat quarters, it's nice to have enough that you can play around with it and really make it how you want to make it. All right, so here is the final project, and fits nicely in your bathroom when you're traveling, stands up on its own. So it's a really, really great project for so many things and makes a great gift as well. All right, Sue says, I made 3 of these organizers back in the day. Yeah, it not only was it one of our most popular webcasts, meaning we had so many people sign up for that live event, but we sold out of these kits, I think 3 times. So now we've got this Tula Pink limited edition kit, and I hope you will love it. All right, so that is all the business of today. All right, let's see. Receive my Tula Pink kit. Haven't started it yet. Anxious to get started on it. Yeah, you can really make this, I would say, in an afternoon. So maybe 3 or 4 hours, depending on how fast you sew, depending on what kind of quilting you want to feature on it, or if you want to add machine embroidery, it's going to take a little bit longer, depending on the stitch out that you choose. Now, when you register for the webcast, or if you have already joined us for that webcast and it's in your library, don't forget, everyone who registered or registers gets a machine embroidery design for free. The machine embroidery design for all registrants is called Live, Love, Craft, and it has a cute little knitting needle and things like that with it. So it's a great little saying to put on your organizer if you want to use that one, or you can use that design for something else. It would be really great on a tote bag or something like this, maybe a companion project to your organizer. But of course you can use whatever design you want to feature on your organizer. Cute monogram would be great. Okay, so Jana says, long weekend ahead and it's time to work on the Sulky kits. Love that. How much does the kit cost? Sharon, great question. It's only $29.99. I mentioned it last week and I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I saw that it was only $29.99 for the 3 fabrics, the foam interlining, the soft and sheer extra, which is used as an interfacing behind your snap pieces, the snap, the 2 zippers, and the vinyl. I mean, I don't know anywhere you can go and get all of those things for $29.99. It's an amazing deal, especially when you go for designer fabrics and designer notions. I mean, Sulky's the best, right? I mean, Sulky is the best. I can't believe it. $29.99. And the webcast is free. So all you need to do is register for that, and you'll have your video instruction, and you'll be all set. All right, perfect. Let's see. I've been unable to access the free embroidery design. Okay, so the embroidery design is on the event page for the webcast. Once you log into your account at sewingonline.sulky.com, locate that webcast in your library. Make sure that you're registered for it first, or it won't show up in your library. And then you can navigate to the event page. And when you scroll down below the recorded video of the event, you'll find a download for the free embroidery design. So if you're still having trouble locating that, you can always email us at customercare@sulky.com, and we'd be happy to walk you through or show you where to find that within the event. All right. Yes, great price, great value. It's amazing. You know, especially now that we are losing a lot of our fabric stores and things like that, I do encourage you to seek out those independent retailers in your area that offer great quilting fabrics, great garment fabrics, things of this nature. You know, give them your business. They really, really need it now more than ever. But for something like this, a kit that's already ready to go, that goes with a video, you have everything that you need right at your fingertips. What a great deal from Sulky. Okay. All right, so let's get to today's project, which is hanging behind me. It's the lemonade stand bunting. So mine just says lemonade, and it's really the perfect size for the shade tent that I have that my kids use when they do a little corner lemonade stand. So they've already used this twice, actually, and they just string it up on the front of the cute little shade tent, and it's the perfect length. And that was really a happy accident because I just made a basic triangle shape. I'll show you the rulers and things that I used. And with this amount of letters, it just happened to work out. But of course, you want it to hang, you know, maybe not as drastic as mine is here. Maybe pull it a little more taut, but you have some wiggle room, right? Depending on how much you want it to hang so that it's still visible and readable. Okay. Yes, Jill, thank you for putting that link in the chat for the Sokanchi organizer. Perfect. Okay, so to get started with our lemonade stand bunting, let's see, here it is all styled and cute on a little table. Don't we wish all of our lemonade stands looked that cute? But it really does set you apart, right? From all the lemonade stands on the block. But again, you could make this bunting for a new baby, put their name on it. It would look so cute hanging behind the crib. Again, for any holiday, for anything you want to say. You could even make it for 4th of July, maybe put America or something like that, some sort of patriotic, you know, phrase or something like that on the bunting and really personalize it for whatever you want to use it for. So first off, you need a couple of fabrics, right? We need the fabric for our flags, and then we need the fabric for our letter appliques. For the string, rather, you know, to hang it and to attach all of our flags, I went the easy route and chose some pre-made double fold bias binding. Good old pre-made bias binding. I will say I rarely use pre-made binding for a quilt, but sometimes for a placemat, sometimes for, you know, a quilty wall hanging that's a little bit smaller than like, you know, a major quilt. But for this, it is perfect. It is already sewn and folded, and all you need to do is slip the top of your flag in between the folds of that and top stitch it down. So it really, really works great for this. So 2 fabrics and some matching double fold bias binding that you can find at your local independent retailer, or maybe you have, you know, a Hobby Lobby, or maybe your Walmart carries this. Okay, at any rate, and it can be any width that you want because this project is super forgiving. So we're going to start by creating our triangles for the bunting. If you happen to have a diamond ruler or a triangle ruler, you can really create these flags in any size. Keep in mind your seam allowance and how big your letters are going to be that you put on the bunting. Of course, you want this to be readable from afar, so you don't want to go too small, but at the same time, tiny little buntings look so cute, especially for the holidays. You can even string them on your tree or maybe on a mantle, and it says Merry Christmas, and they're these little triangles. So precious, so cute. So I have this diamond ruler. However, I really want the upper edge, meaning the flat edge of my triangle, to be the open edge, so that when I turn it right side out, that is my turning area, and then my raw edge gets concealed in the bias binding fold. So you definitely can use a triangle ruler, but you only want to mark your triangles from, or a diamond ruler rather, you only want to mark your triangles from it rather than cutting the whole diamond and sewing it that way. Okay. If you do not have a ruler like this, I went ahead and created some templates, and you can access these through the blog post that I put in the description of today's post. It's under featured products. You can head right over to the Sulky blog and get this PDF. There's actually a flag for every single letter, but you really only need to print out one to have the little flag pattern. The dotted line is where you're going to sew, and the solid line is where you're going to cut. So the reason there's one for every single letter is because then you also get the letter template. And what I did was I did the letters in fully filled in font, so that when you are tracing the mirror image of these letters onto your Fusible web for your applique, you have great visibility and you can see the outline of that letter. All right, so there's one for each letter of lemonade, but again, you really only need one of the flag templates to cut out all of your flag triangles. So you will need a triangle for every letter for the exterior and then for the back as well. All right. So once we have cut all of our triangles for the fronts and backs, you can set those aside and we will focus on creating the appliques. So you're going to take some Sulky Perfect Applique Fusible web and transfer the mirror image of each letter that you want to feature on the paper side of the Fusible web. Colleen says you could embroider the letters also. That is perfect. You might even have an applique embroidery font already that you can use, which is really fun to do applique by embroidery machine. But if you don't have that, you can certainly use these letters that are part of the template that is in that blog post. All right, so once you have your lemonade or letters, whatever you would like to say, transferred to the paper side of the Fusible web, we're just going to rough cut those out and then fuse them to the wrong side of our applique fabric. Okay, so I went with bright yellow polka dots for the lemonade wording, and then of course my pink checkered background for the flags. So once those are all fused, then we're going to cut them out along the outline. And you can keep the paper backing intact at this point or just remove it, because we're going to go ahead and place our letters onto our triangles. All right. So I'm just making sure that everything's cut out. I've got all of my letters, all of my front triangles, and then my back triangles are set aside. So now we're going to place each letter on each flag. So what I did was I centered the letter about 1.5 inches down from that raw upper edge of each exterior flag. And obviously, some of the letters are going to be wider than others. So the widest letter is the M. So you do want to make sure that whatever size triangle you decide to cut, that your letters aren't going to go beyond those edges. It's okay if they go into the seam allowance a little bit. It'll still be readable and cute. But just keep that in mind if you are going rogue, picking your own font, creating your own triangles. Just, keep that in mind that you don't want your letters to go too far into the seam allowance, or maybe you don't want them to at all. So you might want to audition them, and if your M is, too wide, or maybe the sides are angled depending on the font that you chose, you might want to just kind of trim those down a little bit so that they fit on your flag nicely. So once I have my letters centered and where I want them on each flag, I like to use a little bit of KK2000 just to stick my letter down while I am transporting my flag over to my pressing surface. This way nothing falls off. You could certainly, start on your pressing surface, place each letter and then fuse it, bring the next one over, place each letter and then fuse it. But I did mine all at once just to make sure everything looked nicely together, and then sprayed my letters with KK2000, took them over to the ironing surface, and fused them down. All right, so here we are just fusing it, and that perfect applique fusible web is great stuff. I'm going to go ahead and reveal now that there is some in the summer mystery box, okay? So if you've never tried it before and you got a mystery box, you got some Sulky Perfect Applique Fusible Web. This fusible web is so lightweight and so nice to work with. You kind of don't even know that it's there after you've put it on your fabric. Sometimes I have to get my craft light over the top and be like, did I just peel away the fusible web when I peeled away the paper, or is it actually on there? Sometimes I have to really feel for it to know that it's there. That's how lightweight it is. It doesn't change the hand of your fabric when you're working with it after you've fused it. It's just so nice to work with. So yes, Esther says, I was so happy to see the fusible web in my kits. Perfect. Anne says, do you know where you got the pink check fabric? I got it at Hobby Lobby. Not sure if it will be in the one in your area. So you could definitely call them and see if they have something like that before you head on over. All right, so we're going to fuse every letter in place. And now it's time to sew the letters in place. So for the applique, you can choose whatever stitch you like. I went with a dainty blanket stitch. So I changed my stitch length, length a little bit. I think I just adjusted it by 0.5, making it a little bit smaller and a little less wide, just so it was a little daintier. But now is the time to play around with all those decorative stitches that you probably have built into your sewing machine. They don't get a lot of play, right? So let's give them a project. So if you are choosing a decorative stitch for the first time that you've never used, I highly suggest that you just do a little sample so that you can see the movement of the needle. You can kind of anticipate where it's going to go. And you can see if it's appropriate for the design that you're using. Maybe you have a decorative stitch that's a little sunburst, or a wave stitch, or even just a cute little zigzag would work here. You can also just do a straight stitch and go right inside of the raw edge, and then you'll have a raw edge applique, little shabby chic kind of nod to your banner. So that would be really cute as well. You know what is also a cute idea for a banner? using burlap for your letters, or maybe even for the flags. Looks so cute, and talk about shabby chic, really adds, a style or an aesthetic to the hanging banner. Incidentally, you can also add trim into your angled edges of your triangle. Maybe you want a little fringe. Maybe you want a little pom-pom trim, something like this. So many ways you can personalize this. All right, so I chose to use Sulky 30 weight cotton blendables thread for my applique. And I think that this is just an easy way to introduce a little bit more color, a little bit more design into your simple banner. And the 30 weight cotton thread is going to be thicker than the 50 weight cotton thread that we're going to use to construct this. The 50 weight cotton thread is going to kind of disappear along our seam lines, but at the same time, it's nice and strong, and of course, our banner isn't going to fall apart on us. So the 30 weight cotton thread, I'm just going to see if I can really make this a huge picture. You could see how all those colors blend into each other. It's much different from a variegated thread, okay? A variegated thread is dyed a lot more methodically, and you have these blocks of color one into the other. When you use a blendables thread, which is totally unique to Sulky, no other thread does this, the threads are randomly dyed every 2.5 to 5 inches, so you get this watercolor effect and all the colors blend into each other, hence the blendables name. So I thought that would be a really cute color to add into the lemonade. It's kind of like the lemonade is, swishing around in the glass. So when you're using that color, when you're using that weight of thread, the 30 weight, you need a larger needle. So we need to go up to a size 90-14 needle for that thread. The needle size is corresponding to the thread weight, and the needle type is corresponding to the technique that we're doing. So for this, you can use a universal 90-14. You can use a 90-14 quilting needle. If you are using burlap, let's say for the base of your flag, and you're appliquing some cotton thread over the top of it, you could even go up to a 90-14 top stitch needle, which is going to give you a little bit wider needle and a really sharp point so that you can go through that burlap and the fusible and all of that. All right, so again, choose the decorative stitch that you like best. And I just have a standard presser foot here, but you could also swap to an applique presser foot if you happen to have one with your machine. An applique or open toe presser foot has no bar in front of where the needle is. It's totally open right there. So you can really see how your stitches are being formed while the needle is doing its thing. So if you have one of those, definitely use it. I think specialty presser feet are one of the best things that happened in the sewing industry. Just allowing us to do things a little bit easier, giving us a little, leg up when we are sewing. So if you have one, definitely use it. All right, you're going to applique every single letter on every single flag, and then it's time to put our flags together. So now we're going to switch to 50 weight cotton thread, that nice lighter weight cotton thread, high quality, 100% Egyptian cotton. I switched my thread color so that it matches my pink flags. And we are going to sew down those dotted stitching lines that I showed you earlier, or really a 1/4 inch in from our outer cutting line. We also need to go down to a smaller needle because we are going down in thread weight. So we need to go to a size 70-10 needle for this 50 weight thread. All right, and again, you could use a universal. You could also use a quilting needle, really, for this particular part of the project. All right, and we're going to use that same thread as well when we finish it with our bias tape. All right, so we do want to clip off that corner point, and then you can kind of grade the seams a little bit, or just, you know, trim them at a little bit of an angle toward that point. That is going to allow us to have a nice point at the bottom of our triangles. If we didn't trim this off, when you go to turn it right side out, you're going to have this like lump at the bottom of your triangles, and it's actually going to be more curved than it will be pointy and straight, like a nice triangle. So go ahead and trim that off, trim the seam allowances up a little bit. And now we need to turn them right side out. So this is a fun little notion, and it worked perfectly for this project. You could certainly turn this right side out using a point turner, using a blunt chopstick, even using the Sulky multi-purpose turning tool, but the fat side of it, not the skinny side of it. And of course I don't have mine next to me. I can actually see it on my cutting table over there, but our multi-purpose turning tool, one side of it is kind of egg-shaped with a little bit, you know, pointy, rounded point on one side, and then a little bit fatter rounded point on the other. That's the side you want to use for this, because the other point, the multi-purpose turning tool has 2 points. The other point is very small. It does have a ball point on the end of it, but you will likely go through the stitching that you just did if you use that smaller point of the tool. So if you are going to use the Sulky multi-purpose turning tool, maybe you got it in a past mystery box, make sure that you're using that larger egg-shaped side to turn that right side out. But this little fun tool, this is made by Sulky Sews. Love Sue very. She's done a number of events with us here at Sulky. She introduced me to this tool that she actually manufactured because she had a need for it in her own sewing, and she created this really cool tool. So it looks like this. It's kind of bizarre, right? One side of it is kind of open, see that? And then the other side of it is like a blunt chopstick. So when you reach inside of your little flags, you'll place this blunt end at the triangle tip. And then when you close it shut, see how it just encloses that? It's going to hold on to that triangle tip. And then you can turn the whole thing right side out and release it, and you have this perfect triangle point. So this was a really great tool to turn all these flags right side out. And you can find this tool on the Sulky Sews website. But I also linked directly to it in the description of today's post. I gave you an Amazon link. That was the fastest link I could find for today, because I thought, oh my gosh, I have to show them this tool because it really was a great time saver. Not that these are super hard to turn right side out, but it really eliminated a lot of that fiddling, you know, making sure that the point comes right out, things like that. So it was really perfect for this. So here I am in a process of turning my flag right side out, and then you can see how the point comes right with it because it is enclosed in this cute little spot here. Genius. Love it when somebody, you know, comes up with something that helps us in the sewing room. Like I was just talking about presser feet. This is just a great notion you can use for so many things. So you'll turn all these right side out, and then we want to give them a press. Then everything is nice and flat, and then we want to top stitch those angular diagonal sides. Okay. Ooh, Esther says this point turner also works great on collar points. Yes. Good thinking. Debbie says, I have this notion and it is great. Love it. Okay. So we're going to top stitch. You can use the same thread that you used to construct the flags for the top stitching, or you can switch back to your blendables thread, or maybe use a pretty pink blendables thread if you're using, pink for your flag colors, of course. Just remember, if you are going to go up in thread weight, you then have to swap the needle again so that you have great success. If you ever find that, your thread keeps breaking and you're like, what is up with this thread? And you just continually want to blame the thread, this thread, It's not the thread. I mean, 96% of the time, it's not the thread. And if you're working with sulky thread, it's never the thread, just saying. Almost always, it is the needle. It's either that you are using a needle eye that is too small for your thread weight, or your needle hasn't been replaced in a long time and it might be a little off. Maybe you had the needle down a little bit too far and you went to take your thread away and the needle got caught and you're like, oh, whoops, and you raise the needle and presser foot. You might not even realize that you've bent the needle slightly. And so it's not creating, your stitches are popping, they're not forming properly, or the thread is breaking. Most of the time when the thread is breaking, the needle eye is too small. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to lay out all the flags in the order that we want them to read. Definitely double check this. Make sure. Say it out loud. Write it down. Our eyes can play tricks on us, and then we've got a typo in our flag bunting. We don't want that. All right, so lay it out so that it spells everything correctly, and then we're going to slip the top of our flags into the fold of the bias binding. Now, certainly you can make your own double fold bias binding. Love that, especially if you have some coordinating fabric that all goes together nicely. But this is such a great time saver. Now, when you have all of your flags laid out, you can certainly measure and make sure that all of your flags are equidistant. So what I did was I just folded my bias binding in half, marked the center point, and then I calculated how many flags I had and placed my center one centered along that center point. Then I just pinned my flags right next to each other. I abutted every single flag along the bias binding, and that's how I centered mine. Depending on your saying, let's say you're making smaller flags with smaller letters, and it's going to say Merry Christmas or Happy Birthday. Obviously, you need a space between those two words. So, just lay it out on your longest table. Make sure it looks how you want it to look and that the letters are spaced nicely for your eye. And then you want to pin them so that all of the flags, that raw upper edge, is enclosed in your bias binding. Once you have that, it's time to sew our binding fold, and it's going to enclose everything. And we want to sew along the entire length of the binding, including our little hanging tails. That way our binding is just all together as one, and you can knot the ends or sew them down. So for this, I actually switched to a 40 weight poly deco thread that matched my bias tape. But you could still use the 50 weight cotton, even in the pink color, so it contrasts. You could use your 30 weight blendables. You can really use a lot of different threads to sew this down, because it's really more of a crafty project. You know what I mean? It's not like a quilt where we would want our binding thread to, really disappear so that the quilt takes center stage. You can really have fun with this. You can use a glowy thread for this part. Just keep in mind your thread weight needs to correspond with your needle weight. So if you are switching it up, you may need to switch your needle size. So for the 40 weight poly deco thread, I have to go to an 80-12 needle. So it's a great idea to buy needle packs that have assorted sizes in them. When you buy up, let's say, a universal assortment, you're going to get some 75s, an 80, and some 90s. That's perfect for this project because I used a 75 or a 70 for that 50 weight thread, an 80-12 for the 40 weight thread, and then up to a 90-14 for the 30 weight thread. So many numbers. I know it can get confusing. All right, so we're just gonna sew all along our bias binding fold, removing the pins as we reach them. And for this, I just did a straight stitch, making sure that my stitches are catching the fold on the opposite side of my flag as well. If you're a little bit nervous about catching all the folds, you can go to a zigzag stitch, a wave stitch. You can even do a blanket stitch that cuts into the binding and when you're sewing along the edge. Then it's going to tie in maybe with your blanket stitch that you're using for the applique letters as well. But again, have fun with this. It's a fun, whimsical project. Nothing serious about it, no matter what holiday or occasion that you're sewing it for. So again, you're going to sew along the whole length of your bias binding, including those tails, and then you can just knot the ends, or you can fold the raw end into the wrong side and just stitch it closed, just depending on the look that you're going for. My girls even wanted to add little craft beads to the end and then knot them. You know, it adds just a little bit more decoration and they can really have fun with it too. So there we have our lemonade stand bunting, and you can go hang this on the front of your lemonade stand table, or as I do, it works really great on the shade tent, and then it can be seen from afar as well, a little bit easier. So this is definitely going to set you apart from those other lemonade stands in the area and make people want to come over and maybe even talk about it with you and grab a cup of lemonade while they're at it. So again, you can put someone's name on here. Works really great as a new baby gift. Works really well for birthday parties. Maybe you have a theme for the party like disco glam or something like that, and you can put that on your bunting and you can use it over and over and over again. It's also a really great project to get the kids involved too. Have them figure out the saying. Maybe they're going to have the lemonade stand, so you have them cut out all the applique letters in their own little font that they draw onto the Fusible web paper backing. So lots of ways to get the kids involved with sewing, especially over the summertime when they have some time and maybe a weekend at grandma's or auntie's house, and this gives them something to do, and then they can take it outside and maybe make a couple bucks so that they can buy some more fabric to make some more buntings. All right. Esther says, if you sew a piece of string between each of the triangles, then add some bead or decoration that could be hung from the string. Love that. Maybe some little lemon charms. So cute. And yes, you can add trim, pom-pom, fringe, all kinds of things. Maybe some rickrack trim. Love some rickrack trim. You can insert that into the side seams when you are sewing those, and then when you turn it right side out, you'll have a cute little rickrack trim from beyond the flag edges. What a sweet little addition. All right, Susie Q says you can also use the monogram type function and write a name, message, etc. as the seam. Really cute. She says, I did that to hem a top for my toddler. Love that idea. Love it. So cute. And Linda says you can also use a blank triangle for the space between the words. Genius. Love it. All right. Perfect. Jana says, I could totally see myself making a bunting typo. Ask me how I know. I'm an editor, really. That's how I got into this sewing business, really. I mean, I'm a sewer first and foremost, but I just make mistakes like that all the time. My brain wants to see something, and that's what it sees. And then I hang up the bunting and I've spelled someone's name wrong. I mean, terrible. All right. Oh, Susie follows up and says, I did the word heart, then a heart, and repeated. Love that. Yes, if you have like a signature font on your machine, that can make a really great top stitching on your binding. What a sweet idea. Really cute. And beads that sparkle would draw more attention to your lemonade stand. Perfect. You could even use some metallic thread when you are sewing your applique letters to the flags. Use a shiny metallic thread. That's really going to get people to notice you and set you apart. Perfect. Esther says, cute idea. I might embroider a glass of lemonade or ice. You can add more flags as your heart desires. Put some embroidery on them. Really great ideas. Or maybe a little fuzzy lemon felty applique on either side of your words. Very cute. Love all these ideas. Thank you for sharing them. It's perfect. All right. I think I am all caught up on the questions and comments. If you did have a question and I didn't get to you today, you can always email us at customercare@sulky.com, and we are happy to answer your questions all the time. You can also put them in the chat, continue to put them in the chat here. Ooh, I almost forgot to tell you what today's giveaway is. For one lucky viewer who is watching, commenting, sharing out the live stream today, giving me those great emojis, that's all you have to do to be automatically eligible for today's gift from Sulky. It is an assortment of Sulky thread in lemon colors. So we've got sour lemon, we've got lemon yellow, we've got all the lemony flavors of thread in one assortment. So you'll get a 12-weight Cotton Petites thread, a 12-weight Filaine thread, and 3 Rayon threads. It's valued at over $18, and it is today's gift from Sulky for one lucky viewer who is watching and commenting and giving me those great emojis. Yes, don't forget to like. You also need to like our Facebook page or subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching there. And that's the only way I can contact you if you happen to be a winner. So make sure to do that. Jana says, amazing giveaway. Love the lemons. It's quite a theme this summer. Lemons everywhere. Lemons on fabrics. Lemons, lemon scented things, candles, all kinds of things. It's on ready to wear. It's in home goods, home decor. So definitely a big theme this summer 2025. Lemonade shades sound great, and it would be perfect for this project. Really, you'll have all the yellows in all the different types and weights that you can experiment with and have a lot of fun. All right, Esther says, happy July 4, everyone. Be safe. And I echo that comment, and I hope you all have a very, very safe and happy and healthy and celebratory 4th of July. And I'll see you next Tuesday for another